It was raining really hard, and the weather forecast said this heavy rain would last for about a week. The observatory had even put out a yellow warning for severe rain, which might turn red soon. The continuous downpour made the bookseller think he wouldn't get any customers at all. But then he thought, what if someone got caught in the rain without an umbrella and needed a safe place to wait? The bookseller, looking down at the books in his gloved hands, thought he was such a nice guy for thinking this way. He hoped this small act of kindness would bring him some income, maybe even lead to someone buying or borrowing a book. Meanwhile, outside in the harsh weather, someone was finishing a tough fight. This person was badly hurt, having possibly broken a few ribs, but it was not a huge problem as their regeneration would start soon. They desperately needed a hiding spot, and luckily, only one shop was still open in this terrible weather, a bookstore. The injured person wondered if this was fate, or maybe something else, but decided to just go inside quickly. As the doorbell rang, the bookstore owner, Lin Jai, was already waiting for this visitor. He saw a beautiful customer who was brave enough to come out in such a storm. Lin Jai decided he needed to use all his best salesman techniques, or maybe just his therapy skills, on this customer. He offered a hot towel right away, asking if she wanted to dry off and warm up first. The customer was surprised. He said he was waiting for her and had exactly what she needed ready, making her suspect he knew more than he let on. She started wondering which organization he belonged to: the Secret Instrument Tower, the Truth Society, or maybe even an appointee of Walpurgis Night. This shopkeeper was definitely not a normal person, she thought, as she looked at him intently. Lin Jai replied that destiny is magical sometimes, allowing two strangers to meet like this. He then observed her sticky situation and suggested that saying someone is in trouble is just a simple suggestion. But if the customer connects it to their problems and starts complaining, there's Lin Jai's moment to heal their soul and make them a regular. The customer admitted she was having a maddening issue, realizing she couldn't tell if this man was a friend or foe. She decided to use this chance to ask vague questions to probe his identity and goals, as talking vaguely is a trick used by many, including Mr. Lin Jai, pouring tea, asked if her issue was something to do with relationships, which made the customer think he already knew everything. The customer inwardly thought that if he wasn't trying to confuse her, then he must already know her situation, and perhaps she should just sit down. The woman thought about how an outsider learned about the White Wolf's betrayal so quickly, suggesting this shopkeeper controlled things from the start. She confessed that she had been betrayed and blamed everything on that guy, who used the spawn of the magic mirror and egg of a soul-attracting beast. Because of this, years of companionship were replaced by greed, leading to the betrayal and even wiping out former allies. Lin Jai responded that the more brutal the situation, the easier it is to exploit, or rather, to fix, and asked if this was how brutal it was. He pointed out that there are always two sides, and even being betrayed can be an opportunity to truly know someone. The customer felt he already knew everything and agreed that greed would always trigger treachery, just with different reasons over time. She then asked what she should do, and Lin Jai, with a knowing smile, said he would enlighten her with his silver tongue. He explained that now she knows what is real, she won't pity those who hurt her, even those who were once close. The woman wondered if this was why he waited for her, perhaps planning to use her against the hunters, noting his slyness and dislike for hunters. She asked him for advice, and he suggested the third technique, targeted suggestion: an eye for people who lost their humanity. This, he explained, was what distinguished his advice, ensuring a regular customer. The woman hesitated, asking if he meant losing her humanity, as she wasn't ready for that. Lin Jai quickly brushed off her concern, saying, "Time to do what you really need," and handed her a book. He mentioned he was reading Rousseau's Confessions, suggesting that dry read was best for a lost lady like her. The book was titled Blood and Beast, which she had never heard of before, wondering why he was giving it to her now. The book explained that lycanthropy power is in the blood, and hunters get strength by injecting tainted blood, but too much potency leads to fatal side effects. The woman realized this book showed a way to control the tainted blood, potentially inverting the entire power structure of the hunters who relied on it. She asked if this was what he wanted her to do, and he insisted she must, not for repentance but to face herself honestly. Lin Jai sighed, noting that even strong women are sentimental when heartbroken, so he could only offer comfort and a good book. He saw she looked like she was about to cry and decided to use some quotes from the book to boost her confidence. He recited a quote about presenting a book to a sovereign judge, proclaiming his actions and thoughts, ending with "such as I." The bookstore owner reminded her that everyone has their primitive desire and comforting someone is his specialty. she should confront it and be reborn. He labeled this the fourth step, decisive conclusion, guiding the customer to solve her problems using her own confidence. These were Mr. Lin's little tricks for conversation, and he asked if his children had learned them yet. The woman thanked him for the guidance, saying she would follow it well, then promptly downed the drink he offered. She reacted strongly, realizing it was boiling water, which made Lin Jai nervously claim he just wanted to warm her belly. He checked, and she seemed fine, making him wonder if she truly had the legendary body of steel. The woman, Jai Jixu, then mentioned a famous millionaire, Jai Bonong, who developed the underground district. Lin Jai realized this was a big catch and thought he could earn enough money to renovate his storefront, but quickly told himself to stay calm and think long term. He mentioned the loan period was 1 month, which could be extended by a week at most. He offered her his umbrella since the rain was still heavy and told her to bring it back when she returned the book. She thanked him and asked if she could know a bit more about him. Lin Jai, after making sure he hadn't flirted by accident, introduced himself as Lin Jai, just a normal but charitable bookstore owner. The woman noted that he didn't want to reveal his true identity but figured he should at least be on her side. She bid him a good evening, and he wished her safe travels, inviting her to come back sometime. Lin Jai felt good about doing another good deed, thinking that helping others daily is why he was transported to this world. He started tidying up, ready for the next customer, hoping there would be another one before the day ended. Outside, under the heavy rain and a full moon, the woman, Jai Jixu, walked away with the book and his umbrella. She muttered about that horrible guy, wondering if he wanted her to deal with the traitor before a deadline. Hearing his parting words, "Come back sometime," she gave a slight, almost menacing smile. She tightened her grip on the umbrella handle, which clicked as she adjusted her hold. Jai Jixu walked away, looking back toward the bookstore with the city lights blurring in the rain behind her. In the distance, a dark, silhouetted figure with a top hat stood under an umbrella, waiting. The perspective zoomed in on a gloved hand, presumably Lin Jai's, holding the book tightly on the wet pavement as the rain poured down. And it was a rainy night in the city of Nakan on the Azure mainland. And a man in a nice suit holds a thick, dark book. And this book, titled Rituals and Folklores, was written by Lin Jai himself. And seeing this book made him remember things. And this man, who seems to be Lin Jai, looks at the book with a thoughtful expression. And he thinks about how long it has been since he moved to this world. And 3 whole years have passed since he started living in Nakan. And back in 2017 CE, Lin Jai, a professor of folklore at X University, was immersed in books. And someone tells Mr. Lin that it is closing time, but he wants to read just a bit longer. And he asks the person to go ahead and he will close the gate later. And the person agrees, says goodbye, and waves as she leaves. And as she leaves, another person asks if Mr. Lin is still inside because it is very late. And the first girl sighs, saying Mr. Lin loves books so much and mentions he spends all his salary on them. And Mr. Lin overhears this and thinks, huh? And he feels relieved after the others left. And outside the library, under the bright full moon, a large building stands tall. And then, a hand is shown turning a doorknob, making a slight cracking sound. And as Lin Jai steps out, the library floor glows with a bright, buzzing magic circle inscribed with strange writing. And he watches the powerful magic circle light up the library. And the circle glows intensely, showing a complex pattern. And he thinks that with this, the preparations for the ritual site are complete. And Lin Jai stands on the glowing circle, knowing that fulfilling his wish seems like a dream. And however, he is ready to pay any price if there is even a small chance for his wish to come true. And he places his hand on the glowing spot, determined. And he shouts out his wish, "Please let me own all of the books in this world." And the bottom part shows the aftermath of the ritual attempt. And he sighs, realizing, just as he suspected, that it did not work. And as he steps back, a shadowy, dark form starts to rise behind him. And with a giant, menacing shadow looming, he says he should have known nothing would happen. And he scoffs, calling the idea of a magic circle that can fulfill any wish for a price rubbish. But then, a sharp light flashes near his eye, and he suddenly looks determined again. And he seems to see something powerful and terrifying in a swirling, dark vortex with a glowing eye. And Lin Jai turns his back to this frightening vision, clenching his fists. And at that very moment, he understood one thing. Opening the door in front of him would grant his dream. \n, but the price was that he could never go back to Earth. Yet he didn't hesitate at all. \n, his hand reaches out towards a brilliant, golden light that seems to be the doorway. And now, the scene shifts to a calmer setting where the man in the suit is holding a cup of coffee. And he sips his drink, thinking that after passing through that door, he arrived in Nakken and time really flies. And living here is not much different from before, as he reads a newspaper. And he wonders if there should be consequences for such a powerful ritual, but he doesn't mind the routine of it all. And he is happy because he can keep refreshing the bookshelves and has an endless supply of books, even getting excited about it. And he also occasionally heals the souls of his customers, feeling the joy of being a life teacher. And he thinks it's that simple, and as he finishes his coffee, the focus shifts to the shop's entrance. And he notes that he hasn't had a new customer in a while but is confident his conversation skills are still sharp. And he feels good about himself. And he imagines that the young lady from before must be happier today. And a close-up of a young woman's face shows her crying and sweating, looking fearful. And outside in the heavy rain, a figure wearing a hat, a black mask, and a fur-lined coat stands holding an umbrella. And the mysterious figure walks forward, clutching a book under his arm. And the focus shows the distinct footwear of the figure and another person in the rainy street. And the young woman, who looks like an elf or vampire, is terrified as the masked man approaches her under the rain. And she is paralyzed, sweating, and thinking, I can't do anything. And she realizes her hand, which has sharp claws, won't move because of something related to that book. And the masked man, looking down, simply says, oh, and he sees the book she is holding. And he realizes, so it's that book, and his eyes glow slightly. And he smiles creepily and thinks, what a lucky fellow. And back to the frightened woman, a giant snake with red, menacing eyes looms over her. And she is in utter shock and fear as the snake approaches. And the man with the book stands near her, and the book title, the Akasasagarpa Sutra, is visible. And the sound of splashing rain is emphasized as the woman's dropped umbrella is seen. And she seems to have been thrown or knocked down in the downpour, and she wonders it's him. And she is pressed against a wall, clearly overwhelmed. And she thinks, it can't be, isn't he already? And the scene shows the front of a building with bright windows in the rain. And the tall, cloaked figure stands with his back to the door. And the sound of a bell ding signals a customer entering the shop. And Lin Jai, sitting at the counter, greets the customer, who is old Wilda, by tipping his hat. And Lin Jai recognizes him. It's old Wilda, and asks if he's there to return the book. And old Wilda, with his mask, smiles menacingly. And Lin Jai quickly moves away as Wilda approaches, looking ready for action. And old Wilda requests Lin Jai call him by his real name, which Lin Jai agrees to, calling him Mr. Wilda. And Wilda then comments on Lin Jai having a new customer and lending out a popular book, which Lin Jai says he did because it suited her. And Wilder returns the book, recalling Lin Jai warned an old man shouldn't read it, but he found it too profound. And he describes the book as covering life to death, a monumental work. Lin Jai agrees it's by a deceased giant. And old Wilder reacts to the word giant. And he realizes that the person he fears is Frank Wilda, the black-scaled faceless, who is a destructive black mage. And information about the AP classification of mutants is shown: abnormal, panicky, destructive, indescribable. And Frank Wilda, the black-scaled faceless, is classified as destructive black mage. And his mask is mentioned as his iconic feature, and a bloody knife flies next to it. And close-up of a serpentine green eye. Noting his half-serpent blood gives him dark green pupils, with a paper bearing his name Frank Wilden nearby. And it mentions the secret instrument tower offering a reward for his capture, and that he once fought a holy knight from the tower. And the flashback shows Frank Wilde fighting a knight, both generating powerful light trails. And it is stated that Wilde leveled an area of 10,000 square kilometers, earning him the destructive title. And there are less than 100 destructive mutants in the whole of Azir. And in the present, the elf-like woman weakly leans against the wall, cracking a stone as she tries to move. And she realizes Frank Wilde can even casually chat with someone of that level, finding him extraordinary. And she looks up at the imposing building where Wilda entered. And she thinks she has met someone truly extraordinary. And back in the shop, Lin Jai comments on old Wilda being in a bad mood, while Wilda points at some books by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Lin Jai says Wilda is irregular and he's happy to help if needed. And Lin Jai thinks that an empty nester needs company and notes that Wilda's own children don't treat him well. And old Wilda sits by the window, sipping tea, looking rather lonely. And his lover left him, and his colleagues fear him because of his looks, so he is always alone. And Lin Jai feels nostalgic, remembering meeting Wilda 2 years ago. And the scene flashes back to 2 years ago, with the bell ringing again as someone enters. And Lin Jai, looking much younger and happier, welcomes the customer, holding a red book. In the flashback, the masked customer thinks his businessman instinct tells him this customer has a story. And he observes the customer's rich clothes, hidden face, and concludes he must be a scholar with a lacking spiritual life. And he plots that if handled carefully, this person might become a regular customer. And the masked man asks Lin Jai if he collects old books and offers the book he has, saying it should have collector value. And Lin Jai agrees his shop has many services and asks the customer to wait a moment. And Lin Jai offers black tea, thinking he should use the tea to break the ice first. And old Wilda declines the tea, saying his appearance scares people. And Lin Jai says he is a guest and it's foolish to judge by appearance instead of the heart. And old Wilda accepts the sentiment with a pause. And he agrees with the shopkeeper's words. And old Wilda accepts the offer of tea. And Lin Jai internally notes that Wilda's mask is weirder than scary, but he decides not to dig into it. And he deduces that Wilda must have researched obscure languages extensively and is an accomplished linguist. And Lin Jai decides to focus on the linguistic aspect, noting Wilda seems satisfied with the tea. And Lin Jai then compliments the book Wilda brought, noting its focus on uncommon and dying languages full of magic. And old Wilda is surprised Lin Jai can sense the magic from the manuscripts. And Lin Jai smiles, saying he only reads superficially about it but has a few related books. And old Wilda looks shocked, as even destructive mutants wouldn't notice magic from those manuscripts. And he realizes Lin Jai is treating him casually, and that this guy is definitely not normal, despite having no aura. And Lin Jai, wearing a black mask now, thinks he knew it. Scholars get used to loneliness but hate not being understood. And he thinks offering a new direction is a good idea. And Lin Jai recommends a book on Devil's Language, the most complex dialect in China, challenging Wilda to understand it. And old Wilda accidentally knocks over his tea in shock as Lin Jai pulls out a book titled Wenjiaonese. And old Wilda is very excited and says it's from a splendid ancient civilization, one of its lost languages. And he says this is the real Devil's Language. And Lin Jai is happy it worked, thinking he is awesome. And old Wilda wonders how Lin Jai found such a rare book, as even his shed scale is terrifying. And Lin Jai, feeling triumphant, notes the man talks about that old civilization with such yearning. And he figures Wilda has a deep connection to that civilization. And he is very interested, wondering what kind of terrifying creature Wilda must be. And Lin Jai asks the customer's name. And Wilda says he is Frank Wilda, not worth mentioning, and asks for Lin Jai's name. And Lin Jai replies he is just a regular bookstore owner and tells old Wilda not to be so polite. And Wilda is surprised Lin Jai called him old Wilda. And Lin Jai says it's no big deal, as he encountered a research bottleneck. And he thanks Wilda for the Devil's Language book from 2 years ago, which gave him a new direction, and says he needs more clues like that. And Lin Jai thinks Wilda's earnestness about the Devil's Language shows his scholarly dry humor. And Wilda writes returned on a paper, which Lin Jai notices. And Lin Jai realizes that if Wilda wants more clues about that language, he needs to borrow another book. And Wilda is shown with a very dark, shadowy aura behind him, looking intense. And Lin Jai, smiling, asks Wilda if he wants to borrow a similar book. The story flashes back to 40 years ago during a snowy time. A small bird makes a cawing sound while looking out at the snow-covered mountains. A black bird sat on a snowy branch, making a cawing sound. The person looked intently, his blue eyes sharp against the pale, dusty background. He was thinking deeply about the strange book he was examining. The scholar smiled widely, revealing his happiness about something. This person was eager to repay the kindness shown to him 2 years ago after a terrible loss. The sky is filled with gentle snow as a figure stands against the soft, cloudy backdrop. This scholar seems to be preparing to express his thanks for something important. The man, wearing a crown, looked down with a serious expression. He seemed like a very old and powerful figure against the pale, textured background. The man stood before a massive, long-haired figure, realizing the overwhelming power difference. He felt grateful for this extremely learned hermit who helped him after a terrible loss 2 years ago. The scholar looked overwhelmed by the strange cults described in the book. He wondered if the person who wrote this must be wicked for creating such an evil-seeming religious text. Darkness seems to surround a single sharp word in a jagged shape. That word commands someone to simply die. The narrator explains that the power of a mage comes from understanding languages and words, with white mages writing spells and black mages using incantations. If someone can create their own language, they will reach an indescribable level of understanding. The scholar presented his humble work, which was unexpected since the other man recognized it as being related to the faith-worshipping Truth Society, the moon-worshipping Church of the Dome, and the Church of the Plague. He noted that this cult of ghouls was new to him and, with its evil aura, assumed the writer must be wicked and perhaps trying to found a new religion. A powerful figure wearing a dark crown and sporting a single glowing red eye cried out in shock amidst a flurry of falling snow. The majestic background suggested an intense and dramatic atmosphere surrounding this outburst. A powerful scholar who studies forbidden topics would surely be treated badly by others. That must be the reason why Mr. Lin is hiding away. The man felt a strong emotion about the content in the book. He had never heard of this cult of ghouls before, especially with such an evil aura surrounding it. The scholar showed a book that looked like it was bound by hand, explaining he had an accident and only had this one copy. He mentioned earning a title like associate professor with this work, but offered the book freely to his acquaintance. The power of a mage comes from languages and words. White mages write spells, while black mages use incantations to reach an indescribable level of understanding. The man, who has been given the title of associate professor, mentions having an accident that prevented him from publishing his work on time, leaving him with only this single copy. He says he can recommend other books if the listener does not trust him with this one. The secrets of the mage's power lie in language, where white mages write spells and black mages recite incantations. Discovering a sound and creating a unique language would grant mastery to an unimaginable level. A figure in dark robes stood high on a snowy mountain peak, looking down. Below, a crowned man with long white hair seemed to be forcefully knocked back by an unseen impact. As a black mage, this powerful figure possessed knowledge about the power of languages and words, which were used by white mages to write spells and black mages to chant incantations. The narrator understood that grasping a unique language could lead to an indescribable level of power. The story explains that white mages write spells while black mages use incantations, but finding the sound of one's soul unlocks an indescribable level of power and language creation. This book seems tied deeply to culture and custom, making the scholar need something more to fully understand it. The giant figure, seemingly angered, looms over the smaller person who stands below in the snow. He wonders if the other person understands the true value of the knowledge he possesses. The text speaks of how white mages write spells and black mages use incantations, hinting that creating one's own language leads to an incredible level of power. This difficult book seems deeply connected to a specific culture and custom, making understanding it a challenge without more context. The scholar leaned in close with a wide, confident smile, seeming to think the knowledge in his head was more valuable than any printed copy. He explained that he could easily reprint the book anytime because the real treasure was the knowledge safely stored inside his mind. The scholar presented a worn, black-covered book, explaining it was his own creation that he could not publish due to an accident. He then offered to lend this single, precious copy to the other man since they knew each other. The text explains that if one can find the sound of language and create their own, they will reach an indescribable level. This book appears to be part of a single language deeply connected to culture and custom, so the scholar needs something more to fully understand it. The speaker mentions that the knowledge within the book is not important to him anymore because he can reprint it whenever he needs to. He states that the only things that can be stolen are fame and wealth, which he considers useless to himself. The masked man was quite surprised by the unexpected content in the book. He realized that this cult of ghouls was unknown to him, and the evil aura suggested the author was quite wicked. The person says that the knowledge in their brain will never be stolen, even if someone steals their fame and wealth. They finish by asking if Old Wilder understands their meaning. The man asked if the visitor wanted to borrow a book similar to the one he was showing. He seemed quite confident in his knowledge about this field of study. The scholar explained that the book was very complex and seemed to belong to one single language system. This language, the scholar noted, was deeply connected to culture and customs, meaning more context was needed for understanding. The masked man confidently presented his own written work, claiming it was a humble piece of his research. He was quite sure of himself in this specific field. The person holding the book explained that its content was deeply tied to a certain culture and custom, which meant a different resource was needed for better understanding. The main character reflects on how Master Lin has always been selfless and generous, even 2 years ago when he lost terribly to Joseph. He remembers how this master guided him when his path was unclear, gifting him a rare item without hesitation. The man, still feeling uneasy about receiving such a valuable, only copy of an experimental work, wondered what the generous Master Wilder truly wanted from him. He felt a little strange imagining the old scholar might actually try to use him as some kind of test subject for this book. The masked man, Old Wilder, finally sat down, holding a small cup while reflecting on the person who helped him. He remembered how kind and generous Mr. Lin was, giving him a rare item and guiding him when his path was unclear. The person thought that Mr. Lin was still as selfless and generous as he remembered from before. This generosity was particularly notable because 2 years ago, this person had lost badly fighting Joseph. The one speaking recalled a terrible loss from 2 years ago when they fought against someone named Joseph. As their path became confusing, it was this Master Lin who offered guidance. The man explained that the book's language was deeply connected to its culture and customs, making it difficult to understand without more context. He decided to think about what could help him better understand it, remembering his kind Master Lin from 2 years prior. The speaker thanked Mr. Lin for his kindness, noting how selfless he had been 2 years ago after a terrible fight with Joseph. The speaker felt this master was a deeply knowledgeable hermit who could hide his power even from his destructive self. The scholar presented his humble work, and the other man seemed surprised to see a book about the faith-worshipping Truth Society. He noted this cult of ghouls was new to him, and its evil aura suggested the writer must be wicked. The person speaking explains that the power of a mage comes from languages and words, with white mages writing spells and black mages using incantations. They believe that if one can discover the sound of a unique language, they can reach an indescribable level of power. The man in the mask who had helped the narrator 2 years ago was indeed a master scholar beyond measure. He had finally found clues about the forbidden spells thanks to this wise master. It has been 2 years, and finally, some clues about the forbidden spells have been found using the remaining knowledge from that book. This progress is all thanks to the wise and all-knowing master scholar. The man, who had been apologetic for keeping the other person waiting, stated that he was actually quite confident in this field. He then presented his humble work to the other scholar. He felt immense gratitude for the wise master scholar who had guided him. After 2 years, he finally found clues about forbidden spells thanks to this scholar's help. He needed to properly show his thankfulness this time. He was feeling a bit embarrassed for making the other person wait. The narrator expressed gratitude to Old Wilder for his generosity in lending such a precious, only copy of an unpublished experimental work. Despite the value, Old Wilder dismissed the book's importance, stating the real knowledge was safe in his brain. The man apologizes for the delay while a hand reaches for a book titled Ritual on a shelf. He then appears, offering a humble explanation about his work in this field. The scholar, Mr. Lin, apologizes for making the other person wait. He admits that he is actually quite confident in this field of research. The person apologizes for making the other wait, admitting it is a bit bold of them. He then shares that he is actually quite confident in this particular field of study. The person apologizes for making the other wait, feeling a bit bold to be there. He mentions he is actually quite confident in this field of study. The scholar offered the book, saying he thought it would be quite suitable for the masked man. The masked man looked on with confusion as the rare book was presented to him. The scholar coughed lightly, admitting that he was quite confident in this area of study. He then showed his own humble work to the visitor. The man presented a book with a terrifying cover, featuring a glowing eye surrounded by sharp teeth, which deeply unsettled the person receiving it. He wondered what this incredibly valuable, single-copy work was for and if the master intended to use him as some kind of test subject. The book, titled Cults des Ghouls by Lin Jai, is presented to the speaker. Seeing the author's name and the subject matter makes the listener very surprised. The masked man looked excited as he held out a book that seemed to have an eye on its cover. He was clearly pleased to see the other person's reaction to his humble work. The man slammed his hand down, startling the other person, who then asked if he had written the book. The man holding the book humbly confirmed that it was indeed his own work. The scholar adjusted his collar with a gloved hand, a subtle smile on his face. He seemed completely at ease as he continued to speak to the other man. The masked man expressed surprise upon seeing the names of various organizations written in the book. He knew about the Faith-Worshipping Truth Society, the Moon-Worshipping Church of the Dome, and the Church of the Plague, but this cult of ghouls was entirely new to him. The person holding the book mentions the Faith-Worshipping Truth Society. He notes that he is familiar with 3 major religions but has never heard of this cult of ghouls before. The scholar presented a list of known major religions, including the Moon-Worshipping Church and the Church of the Plague. However, he noted a cult of ghouls that was completely new to him, possessing a distinctly evil aura. A figure stands on the green tiled rooftop, wearing a dark coat and a mask, with a faint shadow of a scythe visible nearby, while another figure in white robes is partially seen. This person has been searching for clues about forbidden spells for 2 years, finally finding some leads thanks to a wise master scholar. The scholar explained that he knew of 3 main religions, but this new cult of ghouls was completely unfamiliar to him. He noted the book's evil aura and wondered if its writer was trying to start a new religion. The scholar looked at the book's content, recognizing 3 main religions but being completely unfamiliar with this cult of ghouls. This discovery, along with the book's evil feeling, made him wonder if the author was trying to start a new religion. The person looking at the book noted the text described a cult of ghouls that was completely unknown to him, unlike the 3 mainstream religions he knew. With the evil feeling coming from the writing, the reader thought the author must be a wicked person trying to start his own religion. The masked scholar wondered if the book's author was trying to establish their own religion. He noted the text described a cult of ghouls unlike the mainstream religions he knew, and its evil aura suggested wicked origins. Someone asked if rituals were the other person's field of research. They replied that it was indeed one of the research topics that changed their destiny. The man admits that rituals are one of his research topics, which even changed his life's path. He feels it is not something important enough to mention right now. The man mentions that the research topic changed his destiny a long time ago. He brushes off the comment, saying it was in the distant past. The scholar responded that his past experience was not worth bringing up. He mentioned that a powerful scholar who researches forbidden things is often set apart from others. The masked man asks about the mention of a long time ago. He also questions the phrase destiny changing that was just mentioned. The man understood what the other scholar meant about destiny changing. He realized that a powerful scholar dealing with forbidden knowledge would naturally be hidden from everyone else. The person thought that a powerful scholar dealing with forbidden knowledge would surely be kept away from others. This explained why Mr. Lin seemed to be in hiding. The man notes that this book seems to be bound by hand. He then recalls having an accident back then, which prevented him from publishing his work in time. He explains that an accident prevented him from publishing his work back then, leaving him with only this single copy. He mentions that he earned the title of associate professor with this research. The scholar explained that because of an accident, he only had this one copy of his work, wishing he had never come to this world. He mentioned that he had earned his title with this very book, which was an unpublished experimental work. The scholar explains that the 6th folklore book was significant enough that he could have earned a title of associate professor with it. He is now offering this important book to the other man. The mage Lin, who was deeply interested in the strange book, was then offered the chance to borrow it. Mr. Lin felt uneasy, wondering what this master scholar truly wanted from him by giving away such a valuable, one-of-a-kind book. The man states that since they know each other now, he will lend this book to the other person. He also suggests that if trust is an issue, he could recommend other books instead. The scholar, Old Wilda, offered to recommend other books if the visitor did not trust him with this rare volume. The visitor hesitated, feeling uneasy about receiving such an invaluable and likely life's work from the old man. He was giving such a precious, single copy, and it was an unpublished experimental work. The masked man felt the weight of the generosity he was receiving. The masked man thanked Mr. Lin for his generosity, saying it would be an honor to read his great work. He felt a bit uneasy accepting such an invaluable, possibly life's work from the old man. The man wondered what this master wanted from him by offering such a precious, only copy of his work. He felt a bit uneasy, suspecting he might be used as a test subject. The scholar held up the book, remarking on how very valuable it was. He seemed pleased to be offering such an important item to the man before him. The person receiving the book felt uneasy about accepting such a precious item that seemed to be the author's life's work. He wondered what the generous Master Wilda truly wanted from him. The man with long white hair looks up at the other person who seems to be speaking with a wide, open mouth. He remembers how generous Mr. Lin was 2 years ago when he had lost badly against Joseph and how Lin guided him when his path was unclear. The person felt a bit uneasy, wondering if this generous master was trying to use him as a test subject. He sighed internally, thinking that old Wilda was being too kind in offering such a precious, one-of-a-kind book. He sighed, feeling that old Wilda was being a bit too generous with him. He thought that old Wilda must surely add more value to this book when someone saw his work. The speaker points out that the listener seemed very interested before, but is now hesitating to borrow the book because it is the only copy. The listener decides to reassure the old man. The man assures old Wilda not to worry about lending the precious book. He explains that the knowledge in his brain is what truly matters, not the physical copy of his work. Old Wilda was told that he would surely add more value to the book. The speaker then reassured him that reprinting the book was easy. The scholar explained that his research is only worthwhile when others see his work. He dismissed the book, saying he can reprint it anytime. Old Wilda stated that the book was not important to him anymore as he could reprint it whenever he wanted. He believed that the knowledge in his brain could never be stolen, even if others took his fame and wealth, which he considered useless. Right now, he already possesses an entire forest. He tells old Wilda that he can easily reprint the book anytime. The scholar insists that the true value is the knowledge inside his brain, which cannot be stolen. The knowledge inside his brain could never be stolen, only his fame and wealth, which he considered the most useless things to him. He asked old Wilda if he understood this idea. The speaker claims that fame and wealth are the most useless things to him. He assures old Wilda that he understands this, implying his true value lies elsewhere. He then asks if the other person understands his reasoning. This master scholar believes the knowledge in his head is the most important thing he possesses. The man, still wearing his mask, felt a jolt of surprise as he looked at the book's contents. He recognized symbols that related to the major religions of the world, but then saw something he had never encountered before. A hand is seen holding a thick, dark red book, making the recipient feel surprised and uneasy. The gesture of giving such a valuable item suggests the giver might have an ulterior motive. The younger man tells old Wilda to just take the book he is giving. He insists this gift is his final healing for the soul. For an empty nester scholar like old Wilda, fame and wealth would fill the emptiness in his heart. However, he quickly adds that such thinking is bad for an old man's health. So he offers this opportunity to get close to people again, to feel their care and company. He asks old Wilda if he understands his good intentions now. Old Wilda, wearing a mask, seems to understand what the other person wants. The other man, with bandaged hands, nods, saying he understands and thanks old Wilda for the teaching. It seems like rain is falling outside as old Wilda bows slightly to the younger man. The younger man then thinks about what old Wilda said about fame and wealth being useless, wondering if it's a warning not to tell anyone about their meeting. Considering the situation, he realizes old Wilda wants help to spread his works. He agrees, saying he would be happy if old Wilda recommended his works to others. The masked man with the intimidating mask opens his mouth, looking happy with the arrangement. He acknowledges this is the price Mr. Lin wants him to pay, agreeing to do his best to spread the works. The masked man, old Wilda, realizes this means he needs to help spread Mr. Lin's work. He figures out that if he needs to spread the contents without revealing Mr. Lin's identity, he has work to do. He concludes he must study the content in detail first and then spread it by word of mouth, knowing he must be cautious at all times. Old Wilda, now looking very dashing in his hat and fur-lined coat, holds a glowing object in his bandaged hand. He thanks the younger man for the guidance over the years and offers a small token of gratitude. He hopes the younger man will accept his gift. A huge, terrifying gargoyle statue with demonic features and giant black wings materializes with a green glow. The statue's imposing form is shown clearly, and the younger man looks shocked as he sees it appear. The younger man finally asks, with wide eyes, if that thing is a gargoyle. Old Wilda says it isn't valuable, not even close to what the younger man has done, but insists he must accept his gratitude. He explains that he received the gargoyle from his teacher upon graduation and they spoke highly of it. The gargoyle is shown in detail, with green energy swirling around it. Old Wilda further explains the gargoyle has great magic resistance, tough skin, sharp teeth and claws, and can sense murderous intent, saying it's not inferior to elite knights in combat. The younger man, seeing the powerful statue, questions how old Wilder can call it not valuable. The younger man admires the detailed craftsmanship, saying it looks alive and is precious to him regardless of the price. He thinks that the gargoyle might repel evilness, similar to a Shigandang stone tablet. He decides to accept this local product since it comes from Old Wilder. Old Wilder watches as the younger man accepts the gift, and the younger man says he should take the book he received earlier. The younger man holds the gargoyle, pleased with the art, and tells Old Wilder he looks forward to whatever he brings next. Old Wilder replies that it's great the younger man likes it. Old Wilder then thinks to himself that it is just a panicky gargoyle. He mentally notes that one random book from a powerful person like Mr. Lin could buy thousands of these statues. The younger man stands there, smiling, contemplating the gift. Old Wilder sighs, thinking Mr. Lin is so benevolent and always looks after his feelings. Old Wilder decides he should leave soon. He tells the younger man that next time, he will definitely prepare a gift worthy of an indescribable level. The younger man looks happy and waves goodbye, saying he can't wait and will see him next time. Old Wilder promises his next gift will be of an indescribable level. The younger man happily says he can't wait and bids farewell. Old Wilder leaves the room quickly, moving out of the frame. His cape flows as he makes a swift exit. The scene changes to the outside of the location. A sign on the door clearly shows that the place is now closed. The focus shifts to the younger man's wide, staring eye. He wonders if Old Wilder will get another one to make a pair, noting how thorough he is. He then asks if the gargoyle is male or female. The gargoyle's menacing face is shown again, as the younger man comments that it is invigorating. He adds that its intimidation factor is top-notch. The younger man stretches, deciding that's enough for today. He mutters to himself that maintaining a good attitude does bring good luck. Suddenly, a pool of black ink spills onto the wooden desk with a goop sound next to a small cup. The younger man turns around with a shocked expression as he sees the ink spill. The black substance is seen dripping down his tie. As he stares at the spraying black liquid, the words "long time no see" appear, written in the spilled ink on the wood. A close-up shows the strange, intricate characters formed by the black substance. The younger man looks back, completely stunned by what he is seeing. He stares at the hand that must have caused the ink to spill and exclaims, "It's you?" A man stands in a dark room full of bookshelves, looking up at a hanging light. He seems shocked to see someone, exclaiming about who is there. The man is very upset, saying that the person before him is the one who sent him to this strange world. He mentions that it has been 3 years since he last spoke to this person, and he feels his time to pay the price has come. He asks what this visitor wants him to do. The man thinks to himself that this existence has helped him achieve his wish and is friendly, like a spirit from a magic lamp, so it probably won't ask for anything too much. He remains hopeful that whatever price he has to pay will not be too absurd. Suddenly, dark ink-like writing appears, stating that he has already paid the price because he awakened. The man wonders if the price was letting Old Wang recommend his book to someone. Visitor seems to confirm this with a gesture, causing the first man to react with surprise. The black writing confirms with a large yes, and the man continues to ponder about the price he had to pay. He asks if the price was simply for others to recommend the book he wrote, and the visitor nods in agreement. The man listens intently, still trying to process this information. The dark substance confirms yes again after the man asks if this benefits the visitor. Relieved, the visitor smiles and says there won't be any issues, adding that he has already done his best. The scene fades slightly to show the background of the library. The first man straightens up with a serious look, as a sharp yellow object seems to strike the desk. The first man is shown looking thoughtful and silent. The scene shifts to a dark, rainy cityscape viewed from a high balcony. A figure in a dark cloak stands looking out at the rain-soaked town. The cloaked figure speaks into a device, identifying himself as Jack and reporting in. Jack reports that he has found the location of black-scaled faceless Wilda on 2320 Nokken Street and that Wilda is involved with the hunter's internal fight. Jack adds that Wilda spent an hour inside a bookstore, which he finds highly suspicious, suspecting it's a secret meeting place for black mages. The person on the other end explains that this is valuable information and tells Jack to organize it and report to Joseph, then come back to explain more details. Jack agrees and hangs up while a flash of lightning strikes. The scene cuts to a large, menacing figure standing in the rain, noticing a rat and calling them brave. The cloaked figure, Jack, looks shocked to be discovered. Jack tries to draw a small knife, startled. Suddenly, a large hand grabs Jack by the throat, cutting off his movement. A close-up shows the attacker, the black-scaled faceless Wilda, clearly angry and screaming. Wilda demands that Jack die. A massive, dark, dragon-like silhouette with a glowing blue eye appears in the sky above them. Wilda attacks, striking Jack with a powerful move as the dragon silhouette looms. Jack's communication device falls to the ground as Wilda stands over him, asking what happened and stepping on something. Wilda angrily tells Jack that he shouldn't have spied on his place of residence. Wilda states that death is too merciful for such a transgression, looking down at the defeated Jack. A close-up shows Wilda's intense, cold eye. The scene shows a tall, imposing building in the heavy rain. The camera pans to show the street view with the bookstore visible under the gloomy sky. The scene shifts to a richly decorated room with a nameplate reading Secret Instrument Tower Director's Office. An assistant named Claude knocks nervously and informs the man inside that he has something strange to report. The director, sitting at a large desk, is holding a quill pen. The director, an older man with a beard and a mechanical arm, is taking a puff from his pipe. The director tells Claude to come in, looking somewhat relaxed despite his appearance. Claude enters the office, looking hesitant, while a door closes behind him. The director asks Claude if something happened with the spawn of the magic mirror. Claude gestures toward the desk and mentions the hunters' activities. The director explodes with anger, shouting that the hunters are all pests. The director complains that if it weren't for them, he could be enjoying his retirement. He slams his metallic fist onto the desk in anger. The director threatens to use their mother's tombstones as punching bags, making Claude flinch. Claude nervously asks the director to mind his actions while adjusting his glasses. The director stops his outburst and asks Claude what he meant earlier. The director stares intensely at Claude, who seems terrified. Claude apologizes and then presents the new case as something refreshing to discuss. The director, though slightly interested, still asks why anything is more important than dealing with the wild dog Wilda. Claude reads from the report, saying the spy monitoring 23rd Nokken Street's hunter activities was killed, and before dying, the spy discovered where Wilda was. The director reacts with shock and anger, slamming his fist again. The director shouts, "Who?" Claude reveals the culprit is Frank Wilda, the destructive black mage known as the Black-Scaled Faceless, as a black mask seems to fall near him. Claude explains that Wilda disappeared after the Battle of White Hills 2 years ago and that they had a bounty on him, never expecting him to survive. The director states that only he believed Wilda could have survived, as he knows that pest better than anyone. The director grimly says Wilda has finally come out of the sewers. He expresses surprise that Wilda was in Nokken and pounds the desk again, ready for a fight. The director vows to smash Wilda's head in, while Claude quickly tries to redirect the focus. Claude informs the director that the report is limited because Wilda killed their spy. Claude continues that they only know Wilda spent over an hour in an ordinary bookstore, perhaps buying a book. The director slams down again, dismissing the idea of a black mage who uses words as power just buying a book, shouting nonsense. The director demands to know if they did a background check on the bookstore. Claude confirms the bookstore is the flagship of the Ash Tree Merchant Group. Claude adds that they have been open for 3 years, have a good reputation, and not many customers, noting the owner is not local. The scene shows Wilda in the background, holding a book while Claude looks concerned. Claude finishes by saying they originally suspected it was a black mage's gathering place, but they aren't sure anymore. The director angrily asks what they are unsure about, and Claude replies, the Ash Tree Merchant Group. The scene briefly shifts to a vision of druids associated with the Ash Tree Merchant Group, with Claude explaining they follow nature. Claude states that because the druids follow nature, it's unlikely they are working with black mages. The director seems to grab Claude as he explains that taking action against the Ash Tree Group would damage their image and cause retaliation against the Secret Instrument Tower. The director punches the desk again, shouting about the little shell eaters. Claude interjects, pointing out that druids don't eat shells. The director, enraged, asks Claude if he thinks he is being unreasonable, as Claude recoils in fear. Claude quickly denies it, and the director steps forward aggressively. The director grabs Claude, surrounded by a fiery aura, looking extremely furious. He forcefully asks Claude about the mission of their Knight's Order. A scared Claude whispers that their mission is to eradicate evil and bring peace. The director looms over him, stating that if that's the case, they cannot tolerate anyone evil or working with evildoers. The director gestures widely around the room, pressing his point about Wilda's presence in the bookstore. The scene flashes back to Wilda, smiling sinisterly in the bookstore, implying he was doing more than just chatting or reading. The flashback shows Wilder reading a very strange-looking book with a red eye on the cover, then sipping tea as the director sarcastically asks if he was just relaxing. The director shouts at Claude, calling him his beloved disciple Claude, and questions if he truly believes such an evil black mage would visit a bookstore just to read. The director threatens Claude, saying he will kick his butt with his sharp mithril boots if Claude really thinks that. Claude interrupts, reminding the director that the Ash Tree Group funds 40% of their reconnaissance department. The director gets hit by a sudden force, letting out an ugh. A minimalistic scene shows two dark silhouettes, possibly indicating a quick passage of time or a change in perspective. The director exhales heavily, calming down slightly, while his mechanical arm moves. The director decides he will go to the bookstore himself to see what is so special about it. He declares he will personally investigate the bookstore, while Claude stands by meekly. Claude simply replies, "Yes, sir," clutching his papers. The setting shifts to a blue-lit modern hallway inside the secret instrument tower, showing signs for various rooms and a silhouette of a man. A younger man greets the radiant knight the director respectfully, who is now walking down a sleek corridor. Others in the hall greet the radiant knight respectfully, acknowledging his hard work. The camera focuses on some intricate, tube-like machinery connected to a large structure. The machinery looks massive and somewhat alien or highly advanced, glowing with a greenish light. The director's metallic hand is shown pressing buttons on a control panel. The director swooshes into a place, looking at a document under a glowing light. He mutters the name Lin Jai while looking at a picture on the document. The director, now looking very serious and intense, states he will personally see what kind of being Lin Jai is. Text box identifies Abraham Joseph the director as a former member of the 10 Radiant Knights of the Secret Instrument Tower. A close-up shows the director's wide, shocked eye against a red background. The director exclaims "damn it" and clutches his head in distress. He murmurs that he is hallucinating again. He pulls back his hand from his eye, whispering, "Why now?" A powerful, glowing red light emanates from a large sword standing upright. The final image shows a figure looking at the glowing sword, realizing the curse of the magic sword Candela. A hand breaks through some debris, suggesting a struggle or escape. Suddenly, the scene changes to underwater with a dark, strange sea creature moving among bubbles. A person, seemingly drowning, reaches up toward the surface while the tentacles of a large creature wrap around them. The individual is completely entangled by these thick, dark tentacles underwater. A close-up shows the terrified face of a man being approached by another monstrous, wide-mouthed creature underwater. The dark figure above seems to be closing in on the struggling person below. A dark, armored figure holds down a struggling person underwater, covering their eyes while another metallic hand tries to intervene. The dark figure is dominant, with tentacles still wrapping the victim as a bright light shines from below. The underwater scene shows strange, swirling lights in the dark depths, perhaps magical effects. A ghostly figure, seemingly corrupted or transformed, floats in the center of swirling blue energy, restrained by dark tendrils. The scene fades back to darkness and bubbles, the aftermath of the intense encounter. Then, we see the close-up of an old, rugged man looking shocked and sweating heavily. This man is breathing heavily in the pouring rain on a cobblestone street, confirming something has arrived. He questions if it is here, while holding a white cloth in his hand. He realizes with annoyance that he cannot visit the bookstore today because of this situation. He looks down, extending his hand, confirming his frustration. The man mutters about the sword Candela, explaining that its curse drives people mad due to its original owner's insanity and death. He continues, saying only a very strong and righteous knight with perfect mind and willpower can control it. However, he grumbles that the situation is already upon him before he could find a successor, dismissing the title the undefeatable Sacred Flame Radiant Knight. He looks intensely at something, scoffing at the title he once held. He resigns himself, thinking he is just an old cripple now. The rain continues heavily in the city streets, creating a splash sound effect. The figure walks away or stands firm on the wet pavement, muttering "damn it." The focus shifts to a grotesque, zombie-like figure struggling in murky water. This creature seems to be trying to pull itself out of the water, looking tormented. In the background, a grand, imposing building, likely a church or large structure, stands in the heavy rain as a cloaked figure observes. The cloaked figure, identified as Helix, the leader of the White Wolf, remarks on the messmaid. Helix then smirks, saying it seems he underestimated the young lady involved. He thinks that a second-in-command should not be weak, and wonders what her subordinates will do after facing whatever that was. A figure walks away onto a balcony in the background, while Helix pauses thoughtfully. Helix then murmurs the name Casper. We see a shoe step onto the wet ground, and then a view of a building engulfed in fire behind the rain. The focus is on a dark figure standing tall against the backdrop of the burning building, holding his staff. The rain is intense, casting long shadows on the wet ground where the figure stands. This figure is revealed to be Jaijixu, the former second-in-command of the White Wolf, looking serious. Jaijixu stands firm as a larger, monstrous figure attacks. A monstrous, muscular arm swings down with an attacker yelling "Die, monster!" towards Jaijixu, who stands her ground. A heavy chain weapon swings towards the target. Jaijixu stands calmly, seemingly unaffected as shadows of attackers are splattered around her. Jaijixu asks someone named Max what the situation is. The scene shows the aftermath of a fight with blood on the ground and one fallen person, while another shadowy figure stands nearby. Max, holding a curved weapon and wearing a blindfold, reports that it is confirmed Helix has the spawn of the magic mirror. Max continues, saying Helix has become a total madman and has started a massacre among the hunters after taking the item. Jaijixu acknowledges, realizing it was Helix, and Max reports that they are outmatched. Max warns that Helix has allied with Casper, the third-in-command, and the assault won't stop there. Max further explains that Helix is very powerful, the closest to Panicky in the White Wolf, and Casper trained most of the hunters, suggesting this was a long-planned betrayal. The scene shows the powerful female figure who was previously dragging someone looking down on the situation. She states that the only reason the person she's talking to was betrayed is because of a scheming bastard. Jaijixu thanks Kei, who responds with a knowing wink. Kei mentions that if Jaijixu hadn't exchanged clothes and held off the pursuers, Jaijixu confirms that she would have never escaped on her own, thanking Kei for helping her survive. Jaijixu explains that the reason she survived is all thanks to Kei. Kei praises Jaijixu, saying she is truly impressive. Jaijixu reflects that she doesn't know what the woman has gone through, but since she returned, she can suppress the side effects of her tainted blood. This suppression keeps her in a highly transformed state while maintaining rationality. Kei exclaims that this level of control is beyond what a typical hunter can do, mentioning the pure form of agility and destruction. Kei continues, saying this power is just like a goddess as a huge wolf-like figure howls at the moon, tossing a body into the air. Someone exclaims a goddess. The person speaking then says that even the leaders like Helix and others are strong, they are just close to Panicky's level. Kei declares to Jaijixu that she is the real Panicky hunter. Ryan, identified as White Wolf Intelligence, chimes in, saying that once the real Panicky hunter transforms, Helix and Casper will fall before her. Jaijixu observes Ryan, acknowledging that one always needs people like him close by. She trusts Ryan's allegiance because of a loyalty rune marked on his soul, and notes that Kei and Max could withstand the mind corruption from the spawn of the magic mirror because of a rune cast by the house's white mage. The focus is on the rune on the soul of one of the allies. The speaker continues, saying that they all possess the tainted blood. The group acknowledges that hunting the cruel dream beasts is a path they have chosen. Jaijixu addresses her team, saying there is no turning back, as this will be their last battle. The three subordinates Kei, the woman with a large chainsaw-like weapon, and Ryan stand ready. Jaijixu raises her weapon, calling out to the hunters that there is no turning back. She stands ready, cape billowing, holding her weapon firmly. As the subordinates acknowledge her order, the scene shifts to the location of the battle. They approach a massive, imposing church gate in the pouring rain. The gate is struck with immense force, causing a loud cracking sound. The scene flashes bright white as the gate breaks apart. Jaijixu and her group stand before the shattered entrance, with the other characters appearing smaller in the aftermath. A final statement is made: "This will be our last battle." The focus is on the broken church gate. A massive, glowing crack spreads across the gate from the impact. The impact effect is shown, emphasizing the sheer force used. The view shifts dramatically upwards, with streaks of rain against a bright background, indicating a sudden shift in elevation or power display. Jaijixu stands confidently, looking down, with her subordinates slightly behind her. A loud BAM sound effect accompanies the group advancing. A light beam illuminates a figure standing further down a hallway. Jaijixu walks down a checkered floor toward the illuminated figure, with her team observing from behind. A shadowy figure holding a large scythe is vaguely visible in the light. The figure is revealed to be Casper, the third-in-command of the White Wolf, standing stoically with his sword seemingly sheathed, stained with blood. Jaijixu confronts Casper, asking if it's just him, expressing surprise. The woman with the large weapon looks alarmed and suspicious next to the stern-faced Kei. Jaijixu urgently asks where Helix is, fearing he took the spawn of the magic mirror. Casper smiles faintly, with a dark line resembling blood near his mouth. Jaijik suppresses him, stating something is wrong and asking if Helix left with the item, while the woman beside her looks angry. Kay moves forward aggressively. A close-up of a hand reaching out. Jaijiksu looks shocked as she stares at Casper, who appears to be transforming or going mad. Casper, now clearly monstrous with blood on his face, is overpowered by Jaijiksu, who has pressed a sword down on him. A close-up of Casper's bloody, screaming face. Jaijiksu demands a syringe be administered immediately. Max quickly administers an injection to Kay, who responds with "got it." The action focuses on the injection happening while the enemy is down. A hand moves to the downed Casper with something red, possibly the syringe content being forced in or used against him. The substance hits Casper, who lets out a painful reaction. Close-ups of the two affected individuals show their distressed and transformed features. Casper lets out a manic laugh, and Jaijiksu screams at him, demanding to know where Helix is and if he took the spawn of the magic mirror. Jaijiksu grabs the monstrous Casper by his robes, demanding answers. The monstrous Casper, drooling blood, says, "His Holiness will come." This Casper figure has a frighteningly transformed appearance with wide, bloody eyes and gaping mouth. A sudden, violent red splash is shown, suggesting a powerful attack or transformation occurred. Dark silhouette, possibly Helix, is seen looming large with a massive weapon against a red backdrop. Jaijiksu, covered in blood splatters, looks distressed. She is clearly fighting hard, trying to stop something or someone. She slams her fist against a surface, causing it to crack, while yelling "damn it." Max asks Jaijiksu if they shouldn't ask Mr. Haywood for help, as the housemaid shouldn't refuse. Jaijiksu refuses the suggestion, stating no need. She instructs Kay to continue investigating with Max, to which Kay agrees. Jaijiksu then tells Ryan to come with her. Ryan, looking nervous and sweaty, seems hesitant about where they are going. He asks meekly, "Tita where?" Jaijiksu looks determined, with a powerful light shining behind her. She stands tall and commanding, still holding her weapon, eyes covered by her blindfold. She finally answers Ryan's question, 23rd Street. The scene shifts to a calm interior where a robotic hand gently taps a coffee cup sitting next to a closed book on a wooden table. A hand gently held a steaming cup of dark liquid over a wooden table. The bookstore owner sat inside, looking thoughtful while holding his own cup. Bookstore owner sighed about another day with no customers, mentioning that only a certain black lady had helped him stay afloat. He hoped the book he recommended would be a little help to her. The bookstore owner was just getting by thanks to the financial help from a certain black lady. He hoped the book he recommended to her would be of some use. The bookstore owner admits that he can only manage because of the help from a certain black lady. She financed his shop and even provided him with official business documents and a temporary residence permit. The bookstore owner watched as the young lady left, hoping the book about non-violent communication would help her. He thought about how he could share his books since no customers were expected in this weather. He thought that with the bad weather, there would be no customers, so he needed to figure out a way to share his books. He really hoped he would not face a situation like the one with young Lady Jai again. The shop owner was surprised to see the young lady return so soon after their last meeting. He felt this young lady might be his key to making money. The young lady returned to the bookstore after only 3 days and knocked on the door. The bookstore owner felt she might be the key to his prosperity now. The bookstore owner was surprised by the young lady's respectful attitude toward the seemingly normal person. It seemed as if she was addressing an incredibly powerful god. The young lady apologizes to Mr. Lin, feeling disappointed that she failed her previous task. She wonders if she is the most useless of his customers because she is asking for help again. The bookstore owner thought the young lady's strange way of speaking about fighting and romance must be due to her business background. He reasoned that she was just using business terms to describe a personal argument she had, where the other person cleverly escaped. The bookstore owner was quite surprised to see Miss Jai return so soon. He quickly welcomed her back to his humble establishment. The shopkeeper thought it was a good sign that the young lady returned so quickly, believing she might be his key to wealth. He told her he didn't expect to see her again after only 3 days. The bookseller was excited, thinking the young lady might be the key to making his business successful. He felt he needed to try his very best with this new potential customer. The shopkeeper expressed surprise at seeing the young lady return so quickly after their last meeting. He noted that she was the first person to visit his modest bookstore again in such a short time. The young lady felt that Mr. Lin was very disappointed in her because she had not resolved the issue in one go despite receiving great guidance. She wondered if she was the most useless among his customers by asking for help again. The young lady felt embarrassed about asking for help again after just 3 days. She worried that she might be the most useless among the boss's customers. The young lady wonders if she is the most useless person among all of Mr. Lin's customers. As the shopkeeper looks at her with striking yellow eyes, another figure appears, armored and intimidating. The young lady, now serving the boss, was shocked to see a gargoyle that looked like it belonged to a mage. She was clearly very respectful, acting like she was speaking to a god. The young lady watched the large statue, noting that even though it was still, it gave off a very strong feeling of intimidation. She felt this person was trying to act normal but was clearly showing something powerful. The young lady thought that even though the man was trying to act normal, he was still showing something very powerful. She wondered if he was trying to comfort her and treat her with kindness and encouragement, just like before. The young lady asked if he was willing to treat her with forgiveness and encouragement, just like before, even if she felt as powerless as a child. She admired how broad-minded he was. The young lady was astonished by the man's understanding, exclaiming how open-minded he was. She then apologized to her boss for disappointing him and asked where he was taking her. The young lady apologizes, feeling that she has let down the bookstore owner once again. The man in the hat, however, says that failing was not her fault and that he underestimated the enemy. The subordinate asked the boss if this was where they were going, recognizing the place as a bookstore. The man leading her only trailed off with it as they seemed to arrive. The man in the brown coat returned after finishing his business. He was met with disbelief that someone so powerful could be considered a normal person. The young lady asked the man in the suit who the person standing next to her was. The man immediately replied that the other person was his subordinate. The man in the hat thought the young woman was too worried about seeming loyal, possibly due to past trauma. He mused that if she had gotten her revenge as planned, she should be more confident by now. This man noted how traumatized the poor girl seemed, making her feel the need to call her subordinate loyal. He thought it was strange that she had to emphasize such a basic trait to someone. The man suddenly stopped and explained a warning to the young lady. He wondered if she should be more confident if she had already gotten her revenge as he suggested. The woman wonders why the subordinate she just mentioned is being so respectful to that seemingly normal person, acting like she is speaking to an indescribable god. She is told not to worry because the situation is easier than she thinks and good news will arrive soon. The shopkeeper waited nervously as the young lady, who seemed very respectful toward him, finished her business. He watched as she seemed to calm down after someone reassured her, making him wonder about their strange dynamic. Mr. Lin, holding a steaming cup, asked the girl if she had failed her mission. The young lady then confessed that the target had escaped and she had no news of him. The person holding the young lady's hands said that shopkeeper Lin already knew about the situation. This suggested that Lin had some prior knowledge or expectation regarding what was happening. The young lady admitted that she had failed in her mission and that the target had gotten away without a trace. She had already asked others to search, but there was still no news about his whereabouts. She explained that after receiving the boss's guidance, her fighting improved and she managed to push back her opponent for 2 days. Yesterday, after a difficult 5-hour battle, she destroyed his base but suffered a heavy cost. She told the man that she realized the opponent had run away after abandoning his partner. The man listened, seeming to accept this explanation for her failure. Mr. Lin felt that he had underestimated the target, realizing that things going too smoothly should have been a warning sign. The young lady apologized for being careless to Mr. Lin reassured the young lady that her failure was not her fault, despite his initial surprise at her using combat terms for a personal conflict. He then tried to comfort her by telling her to just wait for good news soon. The man in the suit, who seems to be the shopkeeper, smiles happily while carefully pouring a dark liquid from a small teapot into a teacup. The setting appears to be the dimly lit interior of the bookstore with shelves full of books in the background. The shopkeeper took a moment to drink something before his subordinate arrived back. He was annoyed by her disrespectful tone, reminding her that he only brought her along for her information, not because he valued her as a person. The person wondered what was happening, feeling that something was not right. Meanwhile, the other person was thinking that the little subordinate's blind trust could be easily guided toward the speaker. The shopkeeper wondered why the young lady spoke of romance using fighting metaphors. Then, he concluded that since love is like shopping and shopping is like fighting, love must be like fighting too. He guessed the young lady used business words because she was describing fighting in terms of shopping. He thought this was why she explained her argument strangely, like a business transaction. The person speaking realized that the young lady was using strange business terms to describe her argument with someone. This whole situation was starting to make more sense to the observer now. The young lady was trying to explain the fight, saying that only after a long battle did she realize the opponent had a prepared escape route. Mr. Lin accepted her apology, saying he underestimated the cunning nature of the foe. The man listened as he poured a dark drink into a small cup, understanding the situation. He simply acknowledged the information he just received. The man in the suit sat back, making a gesture with his hand to show he fully understood the situation. He seemed to be dismissing something that had just been said to him. The young lady asks the man what he thinks about the situation. She seems happy and somewhat amused in the dark room filled with books. The man suddenly looked up with a shocked and sweating expression as someone approached. He thought about how his hope for prosperity might be linked to this young lady. The bookshop owner was shocked by the sudden change in the atmosphere. He wondered what unexpected event was unfolding right now. The young lady asked what the boss did. She was worried and felt like she was being brought to this place because her intel might be useful, not because the boss trusted her. Someone asks in shock if Wild the Black-Scaled Faceless is now in Nokken, questioning how that classified information was obtained. They then ask if the person is doubting their source. The person holding the device asks Mr. Ryan if he doubts the words being spoken. The reply is that there is absolutely no doubt, and they express how amazing it is that Mr. Ryan accomplished something so easily. A man on the phone tells the person on the other end to stop flattering him and to find his informant if they need more information for now. He then thanks them for their hard work and mentions the target for this time. The man grins, thinking the young lady is just a naive girl who does not know how easily the mage's loyalty rune can be broken. Still, he admits that the power she possesses is quite interesting. A woman with purple hair and an eye patch finds the person she was looking for and calls him a rat. She then informs him that the madam wants to see him and they need to leave right away. The woman tells the man he is now her subordinate, not just a wild rat, and he needs to learn some discipline. He quickly apologizes for making madam wait, showing an almost overly eager respect. The subordinate tells the man in the hat that she is leaving right away because the ability to control lycanthropy freely would be the ultimate secret to destroy all the hunters if she figures out how. She thinks that if she finds the way, this power could be the ultimate intelligence to destroy all the hunters. The speaker realizes that with this power, even a common creature could become a great leader. The man wonders why the young lady is so respectful to the seemingly normal person, as if addressing a god. Bookstore owner looked at the young lady with a tense smile and a bead of sweat, warning her not to disappoint him. He was clearly anxious about whatever task she was about to undertake. The man in the hat wondered why the young lady was being so incredibly respectful to that normal-looking person, as if speaking to a god he could not even describe. The young lady asked for guidance again, and the man assured her not to worry because the situation was easier than she thought. He seemed pleased that she was looking to him for help once more. The man tells the young lady that her real enemy is not the person she fought, but other things entirely. He assures her that the fear she feels is the biggest issue, and good news will arrive if she just waits a little longer. The man being addressed insisted that the other person's statements were merely lies and empty words spoken vaguely. He felt that he could identify at least 3 other people with a similar level of deception. The man emphatically claimed that the other person's words were just tricks from a liar whom he knew very well. He insisted that the guy in question was a complete liar, stating he knew that fact better than anyone else. The man apologized for the wait and said he needed to finish some business quickly. He was holding a teacup and smiling faintly behind his covering. The person asked the shopkeeper to wait briefly, saying they need to finish some business and will return in about 5 minutes. After excusing themselves, the person admits to themselves that it is over because they drank too much tea while waiting for someone who did not arrive. The man with the mustache leaned in close, his face showing intense frustration and suspicion toward the person he brought there. He urgently tells the other person to listen, clearly agitated about something. The subordinate questioned the boss's actions with a sharp tone, but the boss harshly reminded her that she was only brought there because her information was useful. The angry woman accused her subordinate of being rude and told her that she was only brought along because her information was useful, not because she was trusted or valued. She harshly reminded the subordinate of basic manners and called her impudent. The man shouts that someone is a complete liar, his eyes wide with alarm and sweat beading on his face. He is clearly agitated by the deception he perceives. The subordinate insisted that while the target's deception was skilled, she knew others just as capable and did not want to see her boss manipulated. The woman in charge dismissed this, saying an ignorant person like the subordinate was easy to trick and that she just needed to redirect the blind trust towards herself. The woman yelled at the person she brought along, saying she should not have come because they only see bad things. She insisted that if the other person was not useful, she would have killed them already. The angry woman tells the person she brought that she would have killed them if they were not useful. She seems very upset about something that happened. The man thought that an ignorant young girl would be simple to trick. He planned to shift her complete trust right onto himself. The subordinate repeated that she was loyal to the boss, promising the boss would see it soon. When the boss returned, the subordinate apologized for making them wait. The shopkeeper returned just as someone's hand, holding a small, dripping arrow, appeared with a dramatic flash of light. She promised that she would prove her loyalty to the boss when the other person returned. The woman apologized for keeping the boss waiting and announced that she was returning now. She was eager to prove her loyalty to the boss when he returned. The subordinates suddenly let out a loud screech as they were being rushed away. They were being told to learn some discipline as they were now considered the madam subordinate. The bookstore owner and the young lady quickly moved to avoid the large dark figure that seemed to be descending upon them with menacing claws and a tail. They tumbled through what looked like a doorway just as the powerful entity reached for them. The man looked shocked and sweaty, finally seeing the young lady return. He felt she was being overly respectful to the normal-looking person beside her, like addressing a god. The man with the hat was violently grabbed and pulled away with incredible speed. This sudden action interrupted the conversation about the unreliable intelligence. The young woman lunged forward with her weapon, her eyes wide with a look of desperate fear. Below her, a monstrous creature with glowing red eyes opened its massive, sharp-toothed maw to meet her attack. The subordinate was swiftly carried away by the powerful figure, who seemed to be comparing the situation to an indistinct god. The subordinate quickly affirmed their eagerness to leave and prove their loyalty upon returning. The man, appearing distressed and reaching out, seems to be confronting a dark, powerful presence emerging from below. This powerful shadow figure has glowing red eyes and a very intimidating aura against the dark background. The woman stood ready, sword drawn, against a towering, dark shadow that loomed over her. A burst of light seemed to emanate from behind her, suggesting a powerful, perhaps intimidating presence was present. The young lady looked very worried, sweating slightly as she stared up at something unseen. She appeared to be completely intimidated by the presence of the person she was with. The young lady rushes out onto the porch in the rain, holding a sword and with a long, bloody appendage lying behind her on the floor. She seems very determined, but perhaps a bit startled by what just happened. The young lady was suddenly quiet, realizing that the powerful intimidation emanating from the object had not moved. She wondered if the seemingly normal person was trying to comfort her with forgiveness, like before. The person apologizes for making the other wait, returning after finishing their business. The person hiding seems to be looking at the subordinate who is now approaching. A man in a suit came down the stairs and asked about the subordinate. A shadowy figure with a wide, scared eye watched him from below. The subordinate, looking quite stressed, urgently mentioned that something important required attention. She whispered that he was the subject of this urgent matter. It was a stormy night with heavy rain beating down outside. Meanwhile, inside the shop, things had just taken a scary turn. The shopkeeper looked on as a seated woman watched his attendant, Ryan, get dealt with. The shopkeeper then turned and started moving upstairs. The woman with elf-like ears was shocked, realizing the shopkeeper had given a warning before acting. She thought that if the stone monster, the gargoyle, had attacked her, she would have died instantly. Everything happened so fast it felt like a bad dream that never truly happened, making her stare right at that. Being that close to danger was chilling and absolutely horrifying for her. She believed the shopkeeper already knew Ryan was suspicious and arrogant but chose not to get his own hands dirty. Instead, the shopkeeper made an excuse to go upstairs and let his gargoyle handle that foolish guy, Ryan. This tactic was so elegant yet brutal, showing a contempt for life that reminded her of a black mage, leaving her wondering what to do now and how to fix this mess. She regretted bringing that awful person, Ryan, here, and now she felt she had even angered Mr. Lin. She worried he might think she was involved. Mr. Lin then approached her and asked what was wrong, telling her to relax as his shop should be a calming place. He gently pointed out that she looked pale, while he smiled, reassuring her that coming to the shop should be relaxing. Mr. Lin insisted she shouldn't look so frightened and then made a strange joke, asking if she thought he would eat people. The young lady was completely terrified by his question, her eyes wide with fear. She immediately started apologizing profusely, saying she was very sorry and that her attendant was rude and she shouldn't have brought him there. Her hands trembled as she tried to explain that it was not her intention for anything bad to happen. Mr. Lin was confused why she was getting even more nervous after he just cracked a joke. He wondered if she truly thought he would eat people, thinking to himself that this couldn't be, as he was just a harmless and friendly civilian. The shopkeeper thought this young lady was too naive because she believed everything people told her, which was probably why that other man ruined her. He then decided he couldn't let this situation continue and thought about giving her another round of soul healing since the last one seemed to have earned her trust. He smiled, thinking this would calm the customer down, and indeed, he felt he had gained her trust from the previous session. He told her he was sorry for joking around and then got back to business, promising to do his best to help with any ideas she had. The young lady felt relieved that he seemed to have forgiven her mistake and resolved to be more careful in the future. She apologized for troubling him and asked him to recommend a suitable book because her willpower was too weak. Mr. Lin agreed and told her to wait while he thought, wondering why she looked so beaten down, even though he had only been gone for less than 5 minutes. He wondered if it was because her subordinates suddenly left, and then he brought up Ryan, saying he didn't look right and that they shouldn't talk about things like absolute loyalty. The young lady was shocked and exclaimed, "How can that be?" But she quickly realized that Mr. Lin would not say something like that without a reason, making her suspect there was something wrong with the loyalty rune placed on Ryan. She then recalled that white mages use spells to cast the loyalty rune, and only they know how to break it. The person who wrote Ryan's rune was a mage from her family, supported by her father, Haywood. If Ryan's rune failed, it meant Haywood was likely breaking the runes to betray people, making her wonder who she could trust now. Mr. Lin told her that she could only rely on herself because people are like hell, and you can never truly show someone your whole heart. He advised her that when she becomes as unbreakable as steel, no one can defeat her, and handed her a book, telling her to read the masterpiece. He added that no matter what she understood from the book, it would help her. He thought that he should use some quotes from the book to encourage her while the iron was hot, remembering some lines. He recalled the quote about man's dearest possession is life, and then another part about the unending will of steel having a direct effect on the power of the soul. The young lady, hearing the word steel, looked down at the book, which read how the steel was tempered, while Mr. Lin smiled, telling her to have a good rate of the masterpiece. He reiterated that whatever she took from it would help, mentioning the book was by Nikolai Ostrovsky. He then remembered more quotes to use for encouragement as the young lady looked intently at the book, still processing the heavy words. He quoted further, "Man's dearest possession is life, and it's given to him to live but once, and that he must live so as to feel no torturing regrets for years without purpose." As the rain poured down, the young lady, now looking determined, held the book, remembering the lines about living without shame of a petty past. She looked out into the rainy street, understanding that she had her own destiny to follow. The scene shifts to her standing outside in the rain on a tiled surface holding an umbrella and the book. She looked closely at the book, Will of Steel, and then gasped as something activated. The young lady, now transformed and energized, opened the book, and a bright blue light erupted from its pages. Blue, glowing droplets of energy started falling around her in the space, which looked like some kind of large, empty hall. The energy droplets continued to fall rapidly toward the floor tiles. The blue light intensified, showing streams of glowing particles descending. The energy seemed to gather and flow toward the girl standing below. She looked up toward the source of the light with a determined, almost fierce look in her yellow eyes. A close-up on her intense yellow eye showed the power surging around her. The blue energy pooled and flowed downwards like liquid light. A massive surge of blue light seemed to hit something, accompanied by a fearsome red eye opening up in the darkness below. The girl looked down in shock as dark, claw-like shapes descended around her. She stood firm, covered in the blue light, while the dark shapes swooped in. The camera focuses on her determined stance and the book held close. She seemed to be absorbing the energy, stating that the unending will of steel has a direct effect on the power of the soul. She questioned what happened, looking around confused as the energy effect faded. Back in the shop, Mr. Lin was calmly putting books away, unaware of what just happened outside. He didn't see the aftermath clearly, only catching glimpses of the gargoyle trapped in the red glow. The red glow seemed to be consuming the gargoyle's form. More gargoyle figures appeared, screaming in agony within the red light. The woman, realizing the truth, gasped, confirming that Haywood's rune was indeed broken. She drew a blade of light as the gargoyles roared in pain, and a huge dark presence loomed. She watched as the gargoyle monster recoiled from the attack that came from above. With a strong whoosh, she jumped from the roof, leaving behind the terrifying scene. The gargoyle monster cried out in agony as it was struck. The man who was Ryan screamed in pain as his form seemed to collapse on the floor, defeated. The woman looked at her hand, feeling a sharp pain, realizing the backlash from breaking the rune. She was clearly hurt as she retreated onto the wet rooftops, stepping carefully. She wiped blood from her mouth, looking back with a smirk, saying, "Ha, I see." She looked up towards the massive red-eyed entity, seeming almost pleased despite the injury. She addressed Ryan, saying it had been a while, and then commented on how incredible Mr. Lin was. She felt that Mr. Lin had easily modified her soul structure and poured a large amount of mana into her. She felt a sense of satisfaction, almost overflowing, as if she had been given a second life by Mr. Lin's help. She believed Mr. Lin was building up his power among the hunters to gradually change the system, and she fully understood his intention. She swore absolute loyalty to his will and orders from now on, offering her body to command and use. She promised she would definitely not let him down again. While back in the shop, Mr. Lin was surprised to see her still there with a nosebleed. He wondered if she was turning into a yandere, noting she had been visiting his bookstore often after being abandoned by that other man. He quickly dismissed the thought, thinking how could such a rich lady possibly prefer someone like him. He decided he should focus on how to get more customers instead, as a loud step was heard from outside. The scene shows a figure stepping out into the rain on the rooftop. The figure is revealed to be an older, grizzled man who looks troubled and holds a piece of paper. This man seems to be in a daze under the pouring rain.